What's up, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic day. And, well, if you're not, stop it. That's wrong. Just be happy. Jeez. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite scenes from a fantastic show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The scene's called The Last Agni Kai, and why I think it's a textbook example of storytelling through action. Now, if you're sitting there looking at your screen going, hey bro, why are you spending your time and money on some random video talking about a kid's show, dude? It's kind of weird. And to be honest, yeah, that's a good question. But my answer is...
because it's fun! We're having fun!
Who are you to judge me?
Disclaimer, this is a stand-in for when I go on long talking segments as a shield against the horrors of copyright law. Because when you take a studio's work and use it to construct a deep analysis about its rich visuals and beautiful storytelling, executives just look at you like...
You serious?
So anyway, in the meantime, enjoy this picture of this lovely dog that's supposed to represent me. Hope y'all enjoy. The Last Agni Kai is just one part of the climactic final battle of Avatar: The Last Airbender. While there's many other parts to this fight, including parts that many people would deem more important to the sake of the plot, this one is by far my favorite. While the other heroes are off saving the world, we take a simple 5 minutes to hone in on what I think is the best fight in the entire show. And before everyone starts complaining about how Aang versus Ozai is cooler, the answer is no.
Stop it. Get some help.
That fight's just a fight for the sake of cool visuals, and there's no storytelling or deep meaning to be found there. It's cool, but this one is way better. This is probably a good time as any to state that this video is my opinion, and if your opinion is different than mine, that's cool. Part of what makes art so special is that it can mean different things to different people. Anyway, with that said, back to the scene. It's simple. No grand setting or city to save. Just one final fight between a brother and a sister. Prince Zuko and Princess Azula. Azula is the villain of the fight, looking to be crowned Fire Lord of the Fire Nation and achieve her goals of complete power and perfection. Zuko was once her ally, but since then has gone on a long journey to find purpose and meaning, and is now ready to take his final step from villain to hero. Azula is messy and unkempt, with uneven hair and smeared lipstick showing her descent into madness. Her endless mission to become perfect has caused her to push everyone in her life away from her, and is clearly beginning to have effects. Zuko is framed as stoic and collected, a stark difference from his younger self at the beginning of the show, who was emotional, aggressive, and unbalanced. During his run as a villain, Zuko was selfish, regularly abandoning his allies and betraying his loved ones in pursuit of self-gain. Now, when his sister challenges him to a fight that he knows he can't win on his own, he accepts anyway.
And this way, no one else has to get hurt.
Putting on her manipulative act one last time, Azula tells her brother that she is sorry it has to end this way, to which he replies,
No, you're not.
Zuko has moved on from his past. He is no longer controlled by the lies and manipulations that his sister has put him through for years. And yet, this response is filled with just a touch of sadness, as Zuko prepares to face his sister that he knows he can't save, but that he deeply loves all the same. It's a fight between two belief systems, isolationism versus community. Fighting is the last thing he wants to do, but he's ready to do what's necessary. The fight begins as Azula throws the first blow, with Zuko sending a quick response in return. The contrasting blue and orange flames paint the picture with beautiful colors in an epic display. For real though, can we talk about how beautiful these colors are? Like, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this. This is absolutely fantastic. Oh, I love it so much. But this isn't like most fight scenes. It's not epic or glorious, no action-packed music. It's quiet. The sound is drowned out by the somber music overlaying the fight. Only the sounds of the flames like blowtorches can really be heard over the melody. It's a sad battle. Two siblings, people who are supposed to love and support each other, are forced to deal with an unfortunate series of life circumstances that have led to this moment. Cuts of the courtyard around them burning and buildings being put to flames illustrate how destructive this relationship truly is. Without a proper resolution to this conflict, they will inevitably end up destroying the kingdom they are supposed to protect. After a long clash, Azula is unable to break through Zuko's defense, and becomes even more aggressive, throwing more and more attacks as she begins to move towards him, ducking and weaving like he's throwing snowballs at her. It's a really weird analogy. I don't know why I used that, but it felt good in the moment, so whatever. But Zuko remains calm and defensive, gracefully splitting the flames. He has found his inner peace. For a brief moment, we get a shot of Azula gasping for air. Her aggressive style of fighting is clearly taking a toll, and her brother's seeming indifference to her far superior power just makes her even more angry. She rushes forward with hate in her eyes, throwing punches as she goes. Yet again, Zuko blocks these attacks with ease and grace, using flowing arm motions similar to that of what a waterbender might do. Then, in the middle of this otherwise emotional, intense fight scene, Zuko takes a moment to split an attack with his fingertips, hitting one of the coolest poses I've ever seen in a fight. Dude looks cool and he knows it. Bro, holy crap. I haven't seen someone pose this hard since Cal Kestis in Jedi Survivor.
It's time to set you free. Damn! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
I feel like I need to take some time to talk about the sound design of this fight as well. Everything's kind of dulled out. It's super quiet. The only thing you can really hear over the sound of the music is the blasts of the fire coming from palms and fists. The music itself is obviously louder than in many other scenes of the show, as it's supposed to reinforce the emotions that the audience is seeing. This dulled sound design sort of puts the audience into a trance, like you're sitting in a campfire in the darkness looking into the flames of a fireplace, flickering around, like there's another life that you can see within them, a deeper emotion that you wouldn't otherwise see without it. It's a really cool concept. I don't really know how else to describe it. I bet somebody else could do it better than I do, but it's beautiful, and I think it fits the scene really well. Azula flies around her brother with speed and ferocity, but he remains planted and defensive, clearly taking an inspiration from the earthbending fighting style he's become so accustomed to over recent months. His feet are planted, shoulder width apart, and he doesn't really even seem to move. He kind of just oscillates in a circle and gracefully waves away these monstrous attacks that are being thrown at him, until he sees his moment. At the right moment, Zuko throws one final attack of the fight. It's not a punch or a kick, it's just a simple leg sweep, commonly used by airbenders. Another example of him being influenced by foreign fighting techniques. This sweep is enough to throw his sister off balance and she goes crashing to the ground, pulling us out of that trance-like state I was talking about as sound rushes back into your ears. You hear her smack the ground, you hear her grunt from the impact, and the music kind of goes dull as normal sound returns to your ears. At this point, Zuko has effectively won the fight already. It's very clear that his sister is not going to be able to beat him, and he by far has the upper hand. But to him, this fight is more about moral shortcoming than it is about physical dominance. He needs to prove, more importantly to himself, that he has become the better person. So instead of ending it immediately, he challenges his sister to use her most powerful attack, a lightning strike, something that he has previously learned how to redirect and has actually done in the past. But it's something that he needs to do for himself in order to prove to himself that he's become a better man. So, naturally, Azula obliges. She winds up for her attack, but instead of attacking Zuko, she turns her eyes at the last second and attacks his companion, Katara. Zuko quickly realizes what's happening though and is able to jump in front of the attack and intercept it at the last second. An action that should definitely cost him his life. Like, when he's doing this, it's very clear that he knows what's going to happen. While this in turn means that he technically loses the fight, it really shows that he wins the battle, because this is that act of self-sacrifice that he needed to take to prove to himself that he's become a better person. It's that final step on the path to redemption and on his journey to becoming a hero. With Zuko incapacitated, Katara goes on to win the fight. She chains up Azula and is able to beat her because of Azula's own self-hubris. It's a pretty cool scene, some cool visuals. But to be honest, as soon as Zuko is taken out of the equation, the emotional weight of the fight is really over. So I don't really think it's necessary to overanalyze too much of what happens after that. Once Azula is chained up, Katara rushes back over to Zuko and uses her water powers to save his life, because heaven forbid people die in kid shows. I mean, I'm okay with it, but he knew what was going to happen when he made that sacrifice, so I feel like it kind of undercuts the purpose that he survives, but I'm okay with it. The scene ends with a victorious prince staring reflectively at his once mighty sister in chains, crying on the ground. He's conquered her, and in the past he would be gloating over this, but not this time. This time he just stares on with an almost sad expression, because he knows that in the end he truly loves his sister and wishes it had never come to this. This fight is great on its own. I mean, obviously it's incredible. It has amazing visuals and fantastic music, but it's the character worth beneath the surface that is playing out during the fight that makes it stand out so much. This is what I meant when I talked about storytelling through action at the beginning of the video. Not many fight scenes do this, but there's a lot of ways that story writers can explain character development and show story progression without having to use dialogue constantly. You can do it through the action of the show. Let's start with Azula. Azula is always portrayed as cold and calculated. She's obsessed with perfection, going as far to say that one hair out of place is not good enough. It's almost obsessive at a point, like it's kind of crazy, but I think it's a great character trait. However, throughout the show, she becomes more and more isolated, pushing away her closest confidants and only friends. She banishes pretty much everyone inside the castle as soon as she becomes a person of authority when her father leaves towards the end of the series. And this isolationism causes her to begin to fall apart, obviously. She's no longer cool and collected, her hair is a mess, she's destroying her own mirrors and stuff, and her lipstick is smeared across her face. Overall, she's kind of a complete wreck. For the first time ever, she's letting herself be controlled by her emotions. And because of this, it leaves her unbalanced. Zuko, on the other hand, since the beginning of the show, has always been unbalanced. That's like his main character trait. Dude has severe anger issues, like look at him. His main character arc throughout the entire show is learning from the people around him that meaning in life doesn't come from others but from himself. He spends so much time focusing on capturing the Avatar to regain his honor that he never stops to think about the fact that maybe his purpose in life isn't to capture the Avatar. That's just what he's been told. In the first Agni Kai, which happens much earlier in the show, Zuko takes the place of Azula. Angry eyes, throwing the first attack, needless aggression, and a lack of balance are all things that he shows in that first fight. But from the support of his new friends, and more importantly his ever-present and supportive Uncle Iroh, Zuko finds inner peace and balance when he decides to forge his own destiny instead of the one that has been set for him by his family. This can all be seen with how Zuko squares up for this fight. He's more relaxed in stature, instead of the tight fists commonly associated with firebending. Instead of choosing to be aggressive and attack first, he fights defensively, choosing to stay planted with his feet and let his sister come to him. This reminds me a lot of a real-world concept in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu called open guard. Sometimes when faced with a stronger or more skilled opponent in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, trying to clash with them like two fists hitting together is obviously not going to work out for you. They're stronger than you, they're faster than you. You're going to get overpowered. Instead, open guard encourages the fighter to sit down with their legs out in front of them, and in a way it asks their opponent to come to them, and they can use their opponent's aggression against them. And even though they might be larger or stronger than them, you could still etch out an advantage. More like a fist being caught by an open palm than two fists hitting together. Zuko employs this stance to not only face his superior in Azula, but also because it shows his newfound sense of balance and peace. He doesn't feel the need to express anger and aggression in his fights, because he knows that at the end of the day, he's already the victor. His eyes are no longer filled with hate. He's now in control of his emotions. Overall, it would seem like the roles of the two characters have completely flipped from what they're usually supposed to be. Throughout the fight, Azula's attempts to beat Zuko by pure force don't work, and it only causes her to become more angry and out of control, which is a far cry from her past self, which is characterized as cold, collected, and always scheming. This leaves her unbalanced and vulnerable, and is ultimately what leads to her being beaten. Meanwhile, Zuko's more defensive style of fighting shows how his friends throughout the show have influenced his life by incorporating elements of different bending styles into his own, including his choice to redirect lightning, which is a direct connection to his uncle. I think this is such a fantastic element and is illustrated really well. You can see the influences of all three bending styles that aren't his own in the way he fights. When he parries most attacks throughout this fight, he uses large waving arm motions similar to the motions that Katara regularly uses in her waterbending. His defensive nature of planting his feet shoulder width apart and staying firm to the ground is a strong connection to Toph and the way that she conducts metal bending and earth bending. And I think the most obvious connection that can be made is with that final leg sweep that Zuko does. It's very obviously supposed to be reminiscent of an airbender move and looks a lot more like something that Aang would do over himself, but it's that last important element that we need to illustrate how every form of bending has now influenced how Zuko fights. I don't know if it's intended, but I also think it's kind of a cool callback to the beginning of the scene, where Katara references how when Zuko is talking to his Uncle Iroh in a previous episode, he admits that he's not going to be able to take on Azula by himself. But in a way, the influence that all of his friends have on his fighting style shows that he really isn't taking her on by himself. He has all of his friends with him there in spirit, even if they physically aren't there to fight alongside of him. The final shot is really what caps it all off. It's very simple. It's just a scene of Azula being chained up, more or less having like a complete breakdown on the ground. And it cuts to Zuko just kind of solemnly standing there looking down on her. And I think it's really impactful because it shows that while in the past, Zuko would have been gloating over his victories and flexing the fact that he is finally superior to his sister, but now he's just sad. He's sad that his sister has to be in this state that was completely avoidable. He sees that even as he stands in the midst of his victory, this moment really, truly only is another defeat. The thesis of this video is about how this scene is a great example of how you can tell story through the action of a scene without dialogue, so I feel obligated to clarify what I meant about the Aang vs. Ozai scene at the beginning of this video. Don't get me wrong, Aang vs. Ozai is an incredible fight. Awesome visuals, awesome music, great epic moments where Aang is able to reacquire the Avatar state and ends up beating Fire Lord Ozai without having to kill him. There are a couple great moments in it, but I think overall it doesn't have as much emotional undertones as this. Now, that's not to say that fight scenes need emotional undertones to be good. There's plenty of examples of fight scenes that don't have emotional undertones that are fantastic. And emotional undertones don't have to be in only fight scenes. You can do this in all kinds of other scenes in media. But I think it's just an element that sometimes writers neglect these days in movies. The idea of, I hate saying show don't tell because it's such an overused trope, so I'll say the idea of telling a story without words. All in all, this is just a fantastic scene from a fantastic show. And it's just one part of why the conclusion to this kid's story is so deep and impactful, regardless of the age of the person watching. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great show filled with great storytelling throughout the entire run. And even though the target audience is children, the themes and characters throughout are surprisingly adult and give every viewer something to take away from it. Just Zuko as a character himself deserves an entire video to himself about how fantastically written his story is. There are tons of videos that you can find from much better creators than myself on that subject, but hopefully I'll get around to doing it at some point in the future. Seriously though, if you haven't seen this show before, I highly recommend you go see it. It is not just for kids. Do not let people tell you that. It's not very long either, so just set aside some time to watch a few episodes every day and you should be finished in like a week or so. This is my first ever attempt at making a video essay, which is something I've always wanted to do, but have never attempted before. The countless great creators and, more importantly, the fear of copyright rules have always been so discouraging when it comes to making these things, as well as having to learn so many new skills because I have absolutely zero artistic background. I know this video wasn't very long and it wasn't very deep overall, but it took a lot of time and effort to create. Huge respect to the creators who make hour-long videos on stuff like this. I would like to tackle bigger projects in the future. I have plenty of ideas in mind of things that I actually wanted to do way more than this, but I thought it best to start with something small just to get used to the waters, especially considering I have no previous experience with editing or recording anything. So I just picked this one scene, which I thought would be a good topic for a singular video, without committing to too much on the first go. I had a ton of fun making this video, and I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, please leave a like and consider sharing it with your friends so that other people can have the same experience you did. Also, if you have any suggestions on things that I should do differently or how to make videos better, please put them in the comments below. Please do it. I am more than happy to learn new things from anyone. Like I said, I am completely brand new to this and I am flying by the seat of my pants. It may be a long time before I'm able to complete another project. This one alone took a significant amount of time to make, even though it wasn't very long. And I have a very busy schedule, so I don't know how often I'll be able to commit to this side hobby, but I will definitely be back sometime in the future. Until then, thanks for watching. This has been Hikus Talks Film, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.